All right, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, we're now live.
Good evening and welcome to the January 21st, 2026 meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Michael Galway, and this evening I'm acting as chair since our chair Haynes is testifying at a county council meeting. I will now ask the commissioners and the staff to introduce themselves, beginning on my left.
Commissioner Sandra Prather.
Commissioner Jonathan Kaplan.
Mark Dominiani.
Commissioner Doman.
Carly Bond.
Devin Murtha, Historic Preservation Staff.
Laura DiPasquale, Historic Preservation Staff.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
And Dan Bruckert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda this evening are the historic area work permits. Have the work permits been duly advertised?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they were advertised in the January 7th edition of the Washington Times.
Thank you. If anyone is here to testify for any of the cases, please see staff and they will let you know that you are here to address one of the cases. We're going to begin by expediting the cases that we believe can be expedited based on staff reports. Is there anyone here in opposition of case 1A, 17 Pine Avenue, Tacoma Park, case 1B, 4701 Waverly Avenue, Garrett Park, 1C, this is deferred from January the 7th, it's 10019 Pratt Place, Silver Spring, 1D, 10019 Pratt Place, Silver Spring, 1E, 15100 Barnesville Road, Boyd's, 1F, 13 Columbia Avenue, Tacoma Park, 1G, 7329 Baltimore Avenue, Tacoma Park, 1H, 17 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase, or 1I, 23 Hesketh Street, Chevy Chase.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objection, I move that we approve the following hops in accordance with the facts and findings included in the staff reports, including any conditions as recommended by staff. Hop number 1143102 at 17 Pine Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1143790 at 4701 Waverly Avenue, Garrett Park. Hop number 1142374 at 10019 Pratt Place, Silver Spring. Retroactive hop number 1144690 at 10019 Pratt Place, Silver Spring. Hop number 1144508 at 15100 Barnesville Road, Boyd's. Hop number 1144792 at 13 Columbia Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1128143 revision at 7329 Baltimore Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1064778 revision at 17 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase. And hop number 1145082 at 23 Hexeth Street, Chevy Chase.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Doman. I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Now the motion passes, so all the cases are approved. If you've got any questions, you can speak to staff during regular business hours, and we do really appreciate the work to preserve your properties and working with staff to submit an easily approvable work permit. All right, moving on. The first case we'll hear tonight is a preliminary consultation. It is case 2A, 7315 Brookville Road, Chevy Chase. Is there a staff report?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chair. And this is a preliminary consultation for 7315 Brookville Road in Chevy Chase. This is an individually listed master plan site, which is the Simpson family house, constructed circa 1905. So this is to be reviewed under Chapter 24A and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation. So in 2021, the HPC approved the demolition of a non-historic rear addition and the removal of a swimming pool and the construction of a rear addition with a screened-in porch. Just Of particular note, the final approved design included a 2-foot 4-inch projection beyond the left wall plane, which was a substantial reduction from the 9-feet projection presented at their preliminary consultation. So the applicant proposes to expand the existing rear addition, construct a new screened-in porch, and then make alterations to the landscaping and hardscaping behind the house. So this is the subject property. You can see to the rear, there is a bit of a inset hyphen that separates the historic from the new construction, and you can see the screened-in porch also proposed for demolition on the left. This is the view from Brookville Road looking back towards the house. The new construction is set back a substantial distance. And then you can see the rear of the addition and the right side. And this is the left side of the property. So it's a particularly large parcel. It's 3/4 of an acre, and the house is set back about 92 feet from the front wall plane to the street. So again, the applicant proposes to, in all of these, the existing is in the upper left and the proposed is in the lower right. The applicant proposes to extend the 2-story bump out on the left, construct an addition on the right side, and then construct a new screened-in porch off the rear. Again, on the left side and the right side. So in the staff report, we identified these areas with numbers just to help organize the analysis a little bit. The kitchen and sitting area projection is 1, the extended family room is number 2, and then the screened-in porch is area number 3. Again, the applicant provided these views. So the findings in the staff report include that the partial demolition of the rear wall will not impact any of the historic fabric. The proposed materials are consistent with the HPC's 2021 approval, and staff finds that the proposed 2-story addition in the southwest corner of the house, which is identified as number 1, is inset from the right wall plane and is compatibly designed. It will not have a substantial impact on the overall massing of the house. The northern portion of the addition, which is identified as number 2, projects 4 feet from the existing wall plane. This means that the new wall plane will be 6 feet 7 inches, proud of the historic wall plane, but is still largely obscured by the office space, historic office space that was captured in the wraparound porch by the Simpson family. Staff finds that this projection is appropriate for 3 reasons. 1 is that the addition is only 1 story tall, minimizing its impact on the overall massing of the historic portion of the house. 2, this section is more than 20 feet to the rear of the historic wall plane, so it reads as a distinct and separate period of construction, and the addition only touches the 2021 addition, so it will not impact any historic fabric. And then finally, this construction could be demolished in the future, returning the house to its historic configuration. Staff finds the screened-in porch is nearly identical in size and design to the existing porch. The run of the stairs changes from rear loading to side loading, and staff finds overall the impact of the proposal to be appropriate. However, as noted in the staff report, staff finds that no additional construction could be accommodated beyond what is proposed without detracting from the historic character and satisfying the standards in Chapter 24A. We're sort of at that tipping point based on staff's review. So there are a number of hardscape revisions, including a new patio, a cobbled parking area, a fire pit, cabana, a trash enclosure, and then retaining walls and privacy walls and additional plantings. Due to the large nature of the property, staff finds that substantial additional hardscaping can occur without detracting from the overall historic character, and that the type of work proposed is generally compatible with the site. Staff's primary concern is with the compatibility of the proposed cabana. It's only approximately 10 feet from the rear wall of the porch, and staff finds that it will add to the overall mass of new construction, particularly so close to the house. Staff additionally notes that the HOP submission needs to include dimensions of including the height of all the walls and accessory structure, lot coverage, and design specifications for the storage and trash enclosure adjacent to the garage. So the primary questions for the HPC this evening are, does the HPC regard the southeast addition appropriate? And we can go back and note those. The northeast addition, particularly the portion that projects beyond the existing wall plane, the rear screened-in porch, the appropriateness of the new hardscaping, cabana, and privacy walls, and if the HPC concurs with staff's finding that the subject house cannot likely accommodate additional construction beyond what's proposed under the requisite guidance. And with that, I will answer any questions that you have.
Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Commissioner Doman?
Maybe this would be for the applicant, but some of the concerns seem to be with the retaining wall on the hardscaping. And we have a plan view in the submittal. Do you have any, is there any like elevation views that show how this would look from the side, how this impacts the building?
So, I mean, no, there were no, there were some precedent images that were included in the landscape plan that was included in the application, but we don't have any elevations or heights notated. I'll also note that there was a privacy wall on the northern end of the cabana, which separates this property from the property on the left. So, you know, again, that's one of the areas of concern or one of the outstanding questions that staff has at this time is, excuse me, in concept, those seem to be acceptable, but the dimensions matter, and we can't provide any more analysis than that without that dimension.
Any further questions? If there are no further questions, we will ask the applicant to please come forward and make a brief presentation. You'll have about 7 minutes, and once you get to the table, if you would, just press the microphone. There'll be a red button that lights up, and you can identify yourselves for the record. I've got Paul Carson and Matthew McDonald.
I'm Matthew McDonald. I'm the architect for the applicant.
And I'm Paul Carlson, the homeowner.
So go ahead. If you have any questions.
Before he begins,
Yeah.
Matt, did you want me to pull up the floor plans or?
If you could, I think that'd
Okay.
be just helpful. I think you did a thorough job on the staff report, so I don't think we have a lot to add, but I'm happy to kind of walk the board through the project. So as Dan indicated, the original project was reviewed and approved, I think, in 2021. Mr. Carlson was not the homeowner and the applicant then. He'd since purchased the property around 2022. So they've had about almost 4 years to live in the home. So this is sort of in a response to them spending time in the home and making some changes to the home, as many of us do to our homes. If you can go to, I think, page 15 on the PDF. Yep, this is the first floor plan. The area of proposed addition is shown in gray, and what we're proposing to do is expand the family room and the kitchen area inside, and then basically take the rebuild, but move the screen porch back further on the property to accommodate that the expanded family room and kitchen seating area. Then on the second floor, if you can go to slide 16. The plan is to expand the second floor over the area of the kitchen expansion to include a reconfigured primary bathroom to allow for a larger walk-in closet area. And let's see if we can go to slide 18. This is the rear. Well, this shows the proposed front and rear elevations. As you can see, there's no change to the front elevation. The rear elevation, we're basically taking an existing bay and sort of expanding it towards the rear. And then for the screen porch and family room, same concept, expanding it to the rear. We tried to work with the existing geometries of the home and minimize the impact to the original structure in that regard. I think this is sort of the minimum size that Paul and his family were hoping to get to achieve their goals for how they like to live in the house. I think if you kind of, let's see if we scroll to slide 19, I think part of the design and part of the jog on the left elevation for the family room, I think it allows us to sort of, it's a hipped roof, but it allows us to sort of have that roof return that I think helps give a little bit of modulation to the side facades, which instead of having just sort of one long straight roof going to the back, I think that modulation is an important design feature with relationship to the kind of the rest of the house. In a sense, it sort of mimics the bump at that front office and front porch area a little bit there. You know, I think some as this is a preliminary submission, I think some of the items, like if you scroll to slide 20, the next one, you know, I think we want some sort of, if you look at the right elevation, I think we're trying to keep our design similar to the existing windows. You know, some level of a specialty window is contemplated, kind of in that where the family room extends past. We're thinking an oval, but you know, some of this will be further refined based on your feedback and for the permit submission. If you scroll to slide 21, you know, obviously this is a view that we won't be seeing, but I think that sort of helps to show the proposed massing of the addition. The majority of it is the one-story addition, with just that second story for the primary suite is extended out as a sort of enlarged bay. I think, again, slides 22, that's some 3D renderings. I think that shows the minimal impact that this will have from the front facade and from street facing. And then slide 23 is a conceptual rear rendering, as well as slide 24. And so I think that sort of sums up the main home. I just, with regards to the landscaping plan, that's a work in progress. This is the information we have to date. I think if it helps to sort of separate that out, I'm not opposed to that. That's not my design or my work. We were kind of trying to include that in the preliminary submission just to give some efficiencies to staff so they're not inundated with multiple applications at once. I think that sort of concludes my summary. I think, Paul, if you have anything you wanted to kind of add about how you've lived in the home and how this might sort of help, how you and Brandy have thought about this, obviously, and this is sort of what works for you guys.
Sure. Well, appreciate everyone's time and effort on this. As Matt just mentioned, we've been in the home for roughly 3 years. We have, 4 children, and then I'm from a large family, so we're just looking to kind of expand that common area to make room for gatherings and entertaining. And we love this home, and you know, I think this sort of addition is complementary to the existing historic home and the nature there, and I'd urge or appreciate approval. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the applicants? Yes, Commissioner Doman.
It's Commissioner Doman. On some of the drawings, you show the windows as being 2/1, and then some of the windows are 3/1. And I think that was part of the 2021 changes. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there is some uniformity here, or has this already been approved? I'm looking at I don't know what this is called, the existing right elevation. It shows second floor windows being 2/1, and then below that, they got 3/1. Is there some reason for that, or was that just the way it was when you bought the house?
That might have been an oversight on my end. That's something we would double check. I think some of the smaller windows, some of the more narrow windows, I think maybe a 2/1 might be appropriate, but I think that's something we could look to refine with any sort of board guidance for the permit submission.
I mean, I know they're smaller windows.
I think, you know, on a narrower window, I think I would question sort of the ratio of the the glass sizing. in the-
Yeah,
in the
it'll
panes.
end up getting pretty small
Right.
if you
I
try to
think we
put
just wanna be
3 buttons
Cognizant
in
of that
there.
a little bit.
Okay. What do you propose to put underneath the porch? Right now, it just shows some posts going down, and is it gravel, is it finish, is it hardscaping? What are you gonna put underneath the porch?
I would imagine some version of a screening, so it wouldn't just be wide open to the, underneath, I think, well, if you want to
Right.
chime in.
We basically are gonna use the existing porch and move it out, but right now underneath there, it's one of those, I don't know the right,
Like a sort, it's sort of a lattice type.
a lattice.
Okay, it's not a plastic lattice, is it?
No,
Just curious.
no, it's wood.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I think I was here, I mean, I've been here I was here in 2021, so I think I may have actually sat in on the first preliminary for this when it came through.
Yeah, there's an existing lattice on the front porch, I think, something.
It looks the
Similar to
same as
that.
the front.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the
Yeah,
pictures.
if you look, Dan, if you can scroll to slide 12, I think. I think that shows the existing lattice on the back. I don't think you can zoom in quite like I can here on my iPad, but I think something similar to that would be intended.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a very pretty house. It's a beautiful house. And I just hate to see somebody putting Home Depot plastic lattice around the house. I think that
Agreed. Yeah, I
just
think, yeah, if
cheapens
you-
it up, you know, so.
Right, if you look
If you
on-
stay with the nice, it looks like in here, it's like it's a kind of like a hung lattice with a frame around
Yeah.
it, then there's one next to it over there.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if you look on the sort of the upper left
Yeah,
photo on this, or actually maybe, I think maybe sheet 11, Dan, sorry. Yeah, back up one. Yeah, right there, if you look in that upper left-hand photograph, that's what we would be
oh, yeah.
repeating.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would expect to see on this house. It's a nice house. And my other question was, you're the architect, but is there another landscaping architect involved with this also?
Yes, basically, yes, so there is, and they produce the landscape plan. I debated including it, but I thought just to give you a holistic idea, since this is a preliminary submission, we put that in there.
One of the current concerns was how high this would be, and I assume that would
I
be
think we would,
forthcoming to staff then, and
yeah, I
we'll get
think
that
we could,
information.
as that design is developed, we can refine that, and I'm also not opposed to parsing this out as two separate permit applications that might be appropriate, given that we have two different design teams.
Can I understand the height of what, just so I'm clear?
Well, I guess I don't have it here, there was a picture, like a plan view of the hardscaping from the back, and it showed a wall, but I don't know how high that would be, or,
Well, okay, so we've iterated a little bit, but I don't really want a retaining wall there, so it'll be a patio going out onto the lawn. If you're concerned about like concrete and stuff in the backyard, that was my initial concern with that first rendition.
okay, so what you're saying, this is not necessarily a high concrete
Sort of
wall or
like a
anything?
knee-high type sort of wall to bound the patio.
Yeah, when they first drew the drawing, I think he had like a 3 or 4 foot retaining wall, and we were like, we don't want all that infrastructure. We really want a patio going out into the lawn.
But I think if it's helpful for the board, I would say we can separate those two a little bit.
Thank you. So I have questions.
Any other questions? Commissioner Dominiani?
Hi there. This is a landscape-related question, so I understand maybe it can be more for the homeowner, or as you're gathering feedback to bring back to the design team, maybe we can talk about it a bit. But we've been asked to comment on the appropriateness of the cabana, as well as the privacy wall. And I was just curious, in looking at the plan, if you had considered perhaps moving that cabana sort of hidden behind the house entirely, such that it's, instead of being sort of to the side of the house, visible perhaps from the right-of-way or from the street, if you had considered hiding it behind, in line with the home, such that it'd be sort of hidden by the front plane of the house.
I mean, I could take that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There might be room to, it seems like there's a lot of, a big stretch of property behind it. Could be a way to sort of hide that from the street and then ultimately allow like the the house to stand more proud, rather than having the extra roof line, depending on its height and all that, sort of distracting from the side of the house there. I understand there's a pretty big tree there right now, but might not always be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understood. Okay.
Any other questions? If not, now we're going to go into comments. So any commissioners have comments regarding either the feedback or anything that you've heard? Commissioner Doman?
Okay, I'll start. On the questions that we have on the screen in front of us for the HBC, I have no problem with the addition, number one. I have no problem with the addition, even though this projects out a little bit from the wall plane. I think, as staff mentioned, the bump out for the office area pretty much covers it, so it wouldn't be visible. I think you've addressed that appropriately. And I also think, going back to 2021, there's a nice differentiation between the addition because of the insets on the house. So when it was done originally 5 years ago or so, I think it was properly sized. I have no problem with the size of the addition. I think you're maintaining the size. And I guess my only real question is some of the hardscaping, but I think the porch, as long as you have the nice, what do you call it, skirt around the bottom of the porch, I think that'll look fine. So those are my comments. I have no problem with as it is, pretty much. Thank you.
Commissioner Bond?
Thank you. I agree with my fellow commissioner about Section 1, the Southeast Edition, being appropriate. I find the north elevation for Section 2 and as well for the north end of Section 3 for the porch projecting too far. There's an image in the staff report, it's Figure 7, where you can see how this house is presenting in the streetscape, and you can see the addition currently, and I think projecting as far as you're proposing calls too much attention to the fact that there's a sizable addition on this building already, and I think it diminishes the importance of the historic porch at the front of the house. So I would recommend you pull the north elevation back to at least align with the plane of your existing addition. And I think it's a good idea to consider relocating the cabana behind the house so that we don't see it. And then there's this final comment here for feedback about cumulative effect, which is an important thing to consider in historic preservation design. And I think you're approaching the max you can add to this building.
Commissioner Kaplan?
This is Commissioner Kaplan. Yeah, I think my first knee-jerk reaction when I saw the addition was, man, that's making the original addition a really big addition that just kind of doubles the size of the house, and also kind of the extension beyond the, the line on the north side. But then I also see that because it is behind the house, it doesn't really have that kind of impact from the street. And so I was less bothered by the massing. And I'm kind of on the fence with a part of the addition that pushes out. I do feel that it's set back so far from the street that it wouldn't really have that much of an impact. So I'm not really sure where I am on that. But I do, my concern is about all the landscaping and all the stuff in the back. It seems to kind of go almost from one end of the property, I guess the garage, to the other end. I don't really know what things are going to look like. I don't understand. There's an existing brick wall that I see there, and I'm not sure what that is or what that conceals or if it's original. And I don't know what, it seems like the cabana's going to have a roof. And it does seem like if you're already, with that addition pushing out, kind of any extra stuff in the back that looks structural or busy is just gonna take away from the main house. So I think when you come back, it's not just the cabana; it's that fire area too. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the grading is like. I don't know what you're going to see from the street. So I'd say that hide as much as you can, and then just give us a real clear view of what exactly things are going to look like from the street. Yeah, so I think that's it.
Any further comments? Let me wrap things up then. I think that the comment about being sort of at the limit of construction in terms of massing, I would agree that, although I think I could support your addition, I think that's it. You know, and if you were to come back and say, I want to add something else, I think you may have a hard time getting it through this commission, because I do think it's just gotten so large. Fortunately, you do have the depth of your property, and that looks like the sight lines are in your favor in this case because of the way that the addition sort of sets back and so forth. I think the fact that the new addition projects beyond the wall plane of the previous addition, but is not beyond the original building, I think it gives you it is a saving grace in a sense that I think that's something that you've heard it tonight. There may be a different opinion as to whether or not it should poke out that far, and maybe you look at, can I cut a foot or two off of that and still make that last room functional? And I'd ask you might consider that. But I think in general, what I'm hearing is the issue really has to do with the landscape and you know, what is that cabana and what is the privacy wall? And I think it's because that it has the opportunity, maybe in a negative way, of even extending the house visually further back. And that's something that I think we would all probably have a little bit of heartburn with. But I think in general, it's a nice plan. I mean, we see so many that we look at and, oh my goodness, this is not something that we can see how we could ever approve it. You're not in that boat as I see it, and I don't think you've heard any strong criticism that would prevent you from being able to move forward. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up.
I just had one question. I
Sure.
think regarding the landscaping, yeah, I think the permitting, the building permitting requirements for that versus the house itself are different in Montgomery County. I know the board had indicated not wanting any more, once we get this approval, that's sort of it for the house and the property, but if we separate the two out, could we do two separate formal hops? Would that be acceptable? Like do one for the house and then a separate application for the landscaping, just to.
Yeah, let me try to answer that. I think one recommendation would be to work a little bit with staff. They've heard what the commission's saying, and you may actually, we may not have to even see that part again, but I guess they could certainly separate it if, you know, we could separate it out. I think it's more about getting the information that we need rather than we're not liking what we see. I think this needs to be a little bit more information relative to the site so that we can feel comfortable with it. All right. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. All right, moving on. The second case tonight is a preliminary consultation for 2B at 10701 Keswick Street, Garrett Park. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a second preliminary consultation for an infill construction at 10701 Keswick Street and Garrett Park. This is in the environmental setting of the Truett Richter House. The house was constructed circa 1891 with later additions. As with the previous case, this is to be reviewed under 24A and the Secretary of the Interior standards. Just to give some of you background, the HPC approved a HOP to subdivide the subject property last year in April to create a second buildable lot within the environmental setting, and the planning director approved that subdivision administratively. And then back in December 3rd, the HPC held a preliminary consultation to review the proposal for a new single-family house, regrading, hardscaping, and an accessory structure. Commissioners generally found that the proposed house to be too large to satisfy the subservience requirements for new construction under the standards and recommended revisions. So again, the proposal is to construct a single-family house on the subject property. Associated tree removal, regrading, and hardscaping are also proposed, and an accessory structure is planned to the rear of the proposed house. The focus of this preliminary consultation is the proposed house size and massing. While we're not focused on trees regrading, hardscaping, and the accessory structure, we still welcome additional comments from the commissioners. So again, on the right, you see the historic Truett-Richter house, and the proposed house is 86 feet away from the historic house within the environmental setting. It's a very large lot. This is the view of the property from Keswick. So I've included the previous design and the revisions for all of the elevations. You can see previously it had two shed roof planes that extended the front wall plane very, very tall. The revised design, which has gone to a side gable and a side shed that's lowered the volume on the right and has shifted some of the mass rearward in the design. The right elevation includes an entrance porch, and I think we've fleshed out a little bit of the design with the house as well, and you can see the roof planes there. And then the left elevation, which faces away from the historic house with the wraparound porch continuing. And then the rear elevation, which includes a screened-in porch on the left, and then a sort of dining room bump out on the right. So the proposed house will be substantially lower, shorter than the Truett-Richter house, which is a very, very tall, vertically oriented house. And then the applicant provided these perspective views in the application. So again, going with a size comparison, this is from the staff report. The Truett-Richter house is 42 feet wide with a porte cochere extension of 11 feet 5 inches. So its total width with the porte cochere is 53 feet 5 inches. Proposed construction is 43 feet wide with an 8-inch porch, which makes its width 51 feet. And then as far as the depth goes, the Truett-Richter house is 40 feet, and this is without porches and decks, is 40 feet deep, and it had a 7-foot extension approved by the HPC several years ago, making its depth 47 feet. The proposed house is 36 feet 6 inches with a 12-foot 6 addition, making its total depth 49 feet. So staff finds that the proposed location for the house is appropriate and consistent with what was considered at the subdivision. Staff does not find the proposal is compatible with the master plan site and approval standards set by 24A and the standards. And staff finds primary consideration should be given to the front elevation because of the traditional architectural hierarchy and because both houses will be experienced from the streetscape, similar to the last case. However, there must still be strong consideration for how the entire house impacts the master plan site as it's all located within the environmental setting. Staff continues to find the proposed house is too wide and should be reduced by approximately 15 to 20%. That would result in a maximum house width of 32 to 36 feet. And that's the house alone, exclusive of any porches. Staff finds the footprint of the proposed house to be too large to satisfy the requirements of Standard 9, but that a narrower house that was deeper would likely better blend into the site than a house of comparable width. Staff finds that the side gable roof of the Truett-Richter house helps to shift some of the perceived mass away from the front wall plane, and the revised roof shape, which effectively rotated 90 degrees, does shift some of that mass away from the front, which is a positive. The lower side gable roof height of the proposed house also reduces the mass on the side closest to the Truett-Richter house. Additionally, a mid-century inspired design should have a horizontal orientation and a simplified roof form to better blend in with the environmental setting. At the last preliminary consultation, commissioners identified Oak Springs, Holland Hills, Rock Creek Wood, and Hammond Wood subdivisions as mid-century developments to consider for architectural precedents. In the staff report, there were a number of off-the-shelf house plans that were within the range of width that staff had found to be appropriate in the staff report. These are both, contemporary and traditional designs. And then the house in the lower left is actually is an infill construction in the Garrett Park Historic District, and it's only 26 feet wide at the front elevation. Again, that's within the historic district, not as in a master plan site like the current property. So additional considerations, again, these are not the primary concern of this preliminary consultation. The applicant proposes to remove 42 trees on the site. The Forest Conservation Plan requires the replanting of 16 trees as mitigation. The house couldn't be built without the removal of these trees. These are also all added by the current owner of the property and are not historic trees. The applicant proposes to reconstruct the 2 existing retaining walls along Keswick Street, and staff finds the size and proposed location for the accessory structure are appropriate and encourages continued development of those plans. So the requested feedback from the HPC tonight is the appropriateness of the revised roof form, the appropriateness of the house size, the compatibility of the proposed house mass and form, and then any other preliminary feedback regarding tree removal, site wall construction, and comments regarding the accessory structure. And with that, I will answer any questions that commissioners have at this time.
Do commissioners have any questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Prather?
I had a question in reference to the removal of the 42 trees. I understand they're not historic in nature. Is there any detail of replanting them elsewhere, or?
I mean, most of these trees are sort of in the 8 to 10 inch range. I mean, the property itself, I don't think can accommodate the replanting of these trees. There was a natural resource inventory forest stand delineation as part of the administrative subdivision, and that's where the 16 trees identified, 4 of each species was determined. If the HPC determines that more trees are required by way of mitigation, that's certainly a condition that could be added to an approval, to a HOP approval.
Thank you.
I've got a question for staff. This is Commissioner Galway. You mentioned that staff did not feel that the home meets Chapter 24A, and then you went on to say too large and too wide. Are those primarily the reasons for saying what you said there, or is it also that one slope roof? Just to be clear.
So, well, I mean, questions of form and questions of dimension are really 2 different things, and that's why we've asked for feedback on both of those categories. In this case, staff finds that the house in particular is too broad at the front. It's just too wide to be compatible. The roof forms are non-traditional, but the commissioners, in examining the inspiration for the house at the last preliminary consultation, a majority at least were supportive of a mid-century inspired or contemporary architecture, as it is developed. So they provided some feedback there, but did encourage a quieter design. That's where questions of the form are posed to the commissioners as well.
Thank you. If there are no further questions for staff, if you would go ahead, applicant, and identify yourself. Make sure you push the red button so and then you've got 7 minutes to tell us anything you want to tell us.
Perfect. Daniel Andrews, future property owner and project manager. And so if we could pull up we can use from yours.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I was going to say, I do have your whole application if we want to pull that up. If there are plans that I did not include that you want to refer to, we can.
I just need to reference the site plan, but we can start with the one with the elevations. And so I'll address what I changed after the last meeting and all the feedback that I got.
This one, or do you want
It had the elevation, the elevation slope lines.
Oh,
the overhead with the 2 properties on either side. I think it's slide 5 or 6. So one of the biggest changes that I made first was I agreed with, I think, well, a couple of the commissioners made it last time, that the house was a little bit too proud. And so I looked back, because it was where the architect put it originally. And so then I found the corner lot marker, and so I was measuring off of that, and I was like, okay, it seems the front porch is gonna be about 50 feet, 48 feet. And so I recommended that we could push it back, the whole house, 8 more feet. And so that's where I was like, I need to know how much width I can have at the front, because any foot that I take in would be square footage that either gets taken out of the front yard or the backyard, or then I don't know where it would go. And so I agree 100% that I didn't want to be proud of the historic house. I wanted to set back. And so I wanted to push that further back. And then we go to the next elevations, would be, yeah, perfect. It was, let's see, yeah, another commissioner last time was saying a couple things, like turning the roofs first would give us some solar options in the future, which I thought was a great addition. Because looking into this project, I really wanted to make an interesting roof form and a modern design. And I can see that it would potentially be too loud, or it wouldn't be as compatible with the historic house. And so I thought addressing this would also not only bring down the roof height a little bit, because we're not extending that slope as far back, and it pushes a lot of the mass back. And then with that continuation on the right side, I made it much lower so that it would then, the roof mass closest to the historic property would not appear as massive. I went and did a lot of research after our last meeting. I got to tour quite a few of the Richter houses around my neighborhood. Walked Rock Creek Woods multiple times. And so then I really love the corner window features. And so that's kind of what I put on the far right side, knowing that potentially even if we were wide, those could read as like, more like transparent, as seen through. And so those windows on the second floor and the main living room do extend, so there's like that corner pocket that kind of give that nice mid-century modern contemporary kind of feel. And so you have those on either side. And then what else did I address? Small changes. I did take the note about where the AC condenser units were, and I was like, those should be back left, much more out of the way. It didn't make a lot of sense, and I didn't really put much thought to it before. And then the other changes were with the front porch, I got rid of the top, and I wrapped it around so it does add width to the left of the elevation, kind of thinking that it would make the most sense to have a covered walkway over the stairs that go down to the basement floor, because flooding is always an issue, and you want to make sure that everything is kind of pushed away. And then on the right elevation, if we go to that one, the other elevation that faces the historic house. So this is the door that comes out, and I was like, that should also be covered. And so then if you have a sloped roof there, and then you can have an entrance right to the screen porch right from that side. So coming from my parents' house, you could come right into the house, into the mudroom, or to the porch on the back. And so it makes it much more conducive in terms of the living space. Because I took the feedback of the chair last time of making a potential L shape, where you'd make, I don't know, I guess I kind of misunderstood. I thought she was saying the shorter leg would be towards the street, and then the longer leg would go back into the yard. But the staff said it went the opposite way, and I don't, if the shorter leg was still, then the width would still be at the front of the house, which would make the most sense in the way the property is set up. And also, the land towards the front of the house kind of slopes to the road, and on the back side is where the flattest areas are, because I would want as little impact to any sort of grading or changing to the landscape of the property that's there. And then I guess a couple other small changes, but those were my updates after the feedback that you guys had. And so I talked with my architects, but I'd actually draft these up on Chief Architect because I wanted to see how they would work. And so that was the one thing. I flipped one of the rooms, and so that's why the house is 1 foot narrower, because I wanted to keep a lot of the same layouts because it had a huge pantry, that huge entertaining space that we discussed before. And those were things that I really thought my family would want within our house. And so elements. So I guess I would have questions after I hear your comments and feedbacks about where the line would be on terms of the design, the concept, the width, and where I have the ability to play or push forward on this design elements without being too proud, or well, proud in terms of being too, like taking away from the historical element that's there on the lot. And so those are my updates for tonight.
All right, well, thank you so much. Before we get into discussion, we want to just, if commissioners have any questions for you. Commissioner Doman?
Maybe I didn't understand correctly. I'm looking at, I don't know, it's the topographical showing the elevation markers. And it shows the historic house and your house. And yeah, this is the drawing right here. Now, you said the house will be moved back. From what I see here, the house, you propose to move it back from that drawing.
I had them on the new site plans and I moved them. I think this might have been from a previous application and it wasn't updated. But yeah, the house is pushed back another 8 feet or so. And then you can see it's in line, so it wouldn't be proud of the two neighbors on either side. So I took those as markers.
Okay, so if we had the revised drawing, the house, which is outlined in blue,
Yes.
would be either parallel or as far forward to the street as the historic house is, or would it be back a little bit from there?
Yeah, so when I get the engineer to, or the surveyor to do it at that point in time, we'll mark where the house is and make sure that it sits back at least a foot off of the, if not parallel, they're just
a little bit
behind
back.
it, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
And so my estimation was that it was at least an additional 8 feet from the 40 that was on the original site plan. And so on the updated site plan, I pushed it back 8 more feet.
Commissioner Doman, if you have the staff report up, Mr. Andrews is correct that this is the older version, and page 18 of the compiled staff report and application has the updated site plan.
Oh. Okay, so it's right, go back. It's right after the first one I was looking at. There's an updated drawing, which is just outlined in black ink then. Is that the one? Okay. I see how it is.
This, Commissioner Galway, I'm looking at that image, I believe. It shows the 86 feet, but it still looks, it's not proud of the two structures, but it looks like it's darn near in line with the two structures. Is that what you were, it sounded like it was going to be sitting back slightly behind the two existing homes.
Was that a question for me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I tried to estimate it to be in line or directly, just off of. Because it's another additional, from the marker is another, it's almost over 10 feet to the street. And so that puts the house close to almost 60 feet off of the street, which is in line with the neighbor next door and then the historic property.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Goodman, go ahead.
Okay. I actually did visit and take a look at the property. When I look at the historic house, you have the porte-cochere, and you take that into the overall measurement. You say it comes in at 53 feet, and the other house is 49, but the bulk of the house, of the historic house, is actually smaller visually from when you see it. The porte-cochere that's on the, I guess it'd be like the north side or the left side as we view it from the street. it really, I mean, I know you added it in so you could get your 53 feet and 49 feet, but when you view the house, that doesn't really seem to be significant. The house is still, the big mass of the house doesn't include that little porte-cochere on the left side, so I still have, anyway. I was wondering, you have the dimension without that on there, right? You got 53 feet, but without that, it was on another chart. You added 7 feet or something extra for it, right?
For the historic house,
Yeah, yeah. If you-
I think it's like 11 feet off of, so it's
11
about
feet?
40,
uh,
like
right
11 and a
there.
half, so around
Okay,
42
11
feet.
feet, yeah. Okay. I actually, mine is not a question, it's more of a comment, okay? So I'll let it go at that.
Okay.
We'll come back to that. Any other questions? If not, Commissioner Doman, do you want to start off with your comments?
Well, how do I want to say this? When you were here before in December, I did look at the neighborhood, and I realized that there's a wide variety of homes and styles in your neighborhood. So from the commissioner's point of view, your choice of a mid-century modern or whatever, I think I have no problem with that because it seems to be, you can find almost anything going around the block in your neighborhood. So I think your house, the design anyway, I think would work. And I also like the fact that one of the comments was to do away with the, you had like a balcony or on the front of the house. It kind of looked like a balustrade that ran around on the second level, and you did away with that. I think that's an improvement by changing that design. But I still have, visually, I still kind of have a problem with the way the historic house appears without the porte-cochere on there and your house. Your house, the proposed house still comes through looking larger and more massive than the historic house. So I think we talked about this previously, but that's kind of where I stand right now. I think it could be and should be probably still a little bit narrower. So that's my comments.
Commissioner Dominiani?
Yep. Well, first of all, start with some gratitude. Thank you for coming back and also for iterating your design. It seems like you really incorporated and made an earnest effort to take on the comments of the commissioners, and that's great for us to see and to see that iteration. I think it's more than we can say for some other applicants. So first of all, great job and thanks for a great attitude. Secondly, I tend to agree that the house could be a bit narrower. A way that you might be able to play with that a bit, I appreciated how you noted having sort of windows along the corner to reduce that mass or the perception of it by having light coming through those windows. You might, too, with your two masses, consider pushing one further back. That is another way. I know it's like sort of an oblique angle reveal up to that historic house, so whether making the house narrower or a bit more L-shaped, I think that could still help. I'm not sure precisely. I believe it was Commissioner Burdett who had made the comment about orienting it as an L previously. I'm not sure if she meant like with the narrow piece towards the street or more like this, you know, with the wider piece, but I think more narrow towards the street tends to be better. With your roof forms, I think I tend to agree with the staff comments that it's an improvement what we're seeing this time. However, I'm getting a little hung up on some of the roof forms over the front door, the side door, and the porch. You might want to iterate those. It looks like they might interfere with your windows a little bit, and they're sort of drawing attention to themselves, perhaps like inappropriately, or making them seem bigger than they need to be, that type of thing. So you might consider how to sort of match your angles on your roof in smaller form above the doors or something to iterate that a bit. I know you're trying to cover the staircase down to the basement, cover the side door there, but you might consider how you can move them. They're hanging a bit right now. So as you iterate again, it could be something to consider. Leslie, I wanted to ask you about your plans for the accessory structure in the back. I know that's not part of this drawing now, but I was a little confused. Did you plan to have a driveway or something going back to that eventually?
No, it'd be more of a garage studio because the number is 42 trees to remove that was the forest conservation plan from the original just kind of structure put there. But that will be reassessed once a final site plan is done because there's quite a few changes with what the fire marshal requested for the front driveway and the access and stuff. And so then I was trying to limit cutting the trees in the front section of the property. And so I don't know what they are until I have a plan. So it's kind of what came first.
Got it. Yeah, that's helpful. I was just trying to envision if there was going to be something there and how it would make its way along the side, but I get it now as that. So yeah, I guess like if I had to leave you with like one major takeaway from my comments, I would consider shrinking that width, orienting the house perhaps like deeper, more lengthwise, and then also refining a bit like some of the roof structures such that they don't interfere with your windows or call attention to themselves, coming off bigger than they are. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, I should say? I do have a couple. I agree with the other commissioners about the massing or the width, I guess, when you look at the front elevation. It's just, it looks too wide. And I think you've done a tremendous job with your reorienting the roofs. I think the comment that was made last time was sort of to narrow it up and push it back. You know, it sounded like you were a little uncertain about what the commission was saying, but I do think that we're just a little wider than I'd like to see. So that's my one comment. I think also, yeah, I think it's very important, and thank you for pushing the house back so that it's not proud of the other two homes, the Detroit Richter house and the adjacent home. I think that's really something that will help, as somebody said, quiet the home down a little bit. You know, I see the mid-century modern for sure. It's kind of like driving through maybe Twin Brook or something like that. I think there's a way to make the home a little more quiet, even though it's mid-century modern. And I think, as Commissioner Doman said, it's appropriate given the neighborhood, as long as it doesn't, you know, it's not too noisy. And I guess I have the same sort of concern about the roof, some of the roof shapes, that even though I understand that, you know, you're going after that mid-century modern, there's just something that just isn't quite working for me, you know, in terms, it just, I don't know if it's the slope, I don't know if it's the length of that roof structure, but I would take a closer look at that and see how you can incorporate that, but maybe help. I think you said it well, one of the commissioners said it well, is that it kind of forces your eye to that, and it's not because it's just something that's just a little bit off there. So I would work with that a little bit. I think the glass is fine. You know, I think it's just the massing, not so much the massing overall, but the massing as you see from the street. If you could tighten that up a little bit, I think you're almost there. Go ahead, Commissioner Dolan.
Actually, it might be a question. When you park your car, right now, there's a little bit of an area where the cars are pulled off the road and parked up there. Are you going to use the side door to go into the house, or do you use the front door as currently envisioned in your proposed drawings on here? Will you be parking farther back and then using that side entrance?
The parking would be similar to where it is right now, and the kids, of course, would always go through the mudroom.
Okay.
The adults probably dependent upon the weather. But yeah, mostly probably the side door entrance. So the one that's closer to the historic house.
Right. So I know this isn't really in the topic of discussion because we're looking at the appropriateness of the size and compatibility, but do you envision that being hardscaped or gravel or something going back? Because can you actually drive the car and stay on your property and have a place by that side door? No?
No, there will not be.
Not enough room?
Yeah, there'll be like a walkway.
Just a walkway going?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So
that's
the-
for you to work out, yeah. Okay.
The roof shapes you're talking about were over the doors?
Over the doors
Okay.
primarily, yeah. The
Okay.
other ones seem appropriate. They're just a little, I don't know if the right word is clunky, or they don't sit well with me, and I don't know. I think it's just a matter of experimenting and maybe somehow sort of, my eye goes right to those doors, and I don't know why that is, but maybe I would encourage you to play with that a little bit. Kind of, if you can use that sort of thought about quieting down the house a little bit. Keeping the mid-century is fine, but kind of make it a little a little quieter, a little less busy maybe. Give that some thought.
So can I ask questions now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, because, well, I took from the beginning, the width was always kind of a concern, but I saw it as a basket of concerns. And one of the largest being like the roof structure at the front, which I begrudgingly changed to change that whole kind of thing. And so that's why the doorway kind of hints at like the side has that, the side elevations have that kind of notion that I really liked and appreciated. And so like the shape, the roof shape, the materials, the windows, like I was up to change a lot of those. But I really wanted as much width as possible at the front because also as the property goes, the further you go back, the property kind of comes in more and more and more. And so being a very active family, I like to have I would like a place where the kids could play, backyard soccer or badminton or some other place. And so every foot that we take off the side kind of pushes further and further back and like changes the ability to orient those things. And so I'm not necessarily hearing anything prescriptive besides just making it smaller and pushing it back or losing that square footage. Because the size and massing, like the width is there or the width is compatible, and I decreased the height a lot. And so I'm just, if there's other ideas, because I can't envision in that layout without making things like the foyer then goes too small or you have to get rid of it, and then you change the layouts of the rooms internally. I don't know, I guess I'll just have to work it out. Because a lot of the examples that the staff had, like even the one for Garrett Park was on a lot where I think they built to the admissible 25 feet on both sides for like, that's the whole size of that lot had. In meeting with the Garrett Park Historical Society, the mayor was like, we actually want more wider houses. And he was confused why there'd be so much pushback because I understand the notion of it being an individually designated site versus being in a district or something else. And so if anyone could speak towards that a little bit, like what would you see as the maximum width or in this kind of form of house at least, or if that's not compatible where you're like, it has to go down to 36 feet, the house width, or it's gonna have a really hard time passing.
Well, I understand your frustration. Go
Chair
ahead.
Galway, if I
Yes.
may also, just to also help the commissioners with that a little bit as well. This was a subdivision that this family created on the lot as well. So the dimensions of it, understanding there are some other restrictions there. This was an administrative subdivision that was applied for to the planning department very recently. So the dimensions of the lot are what was requested, very recently, and that's what they have to work with for the width of the house. We can pull back up, if it's helpful for the discussion. Did we have in the presentation, this gets it to the question earlier, is it the form of the roof or from the staff's perspective, is it the size of the house? And very bluntly, it is the size of the house. It is the width of the house. And if it is, from the staff's perspective, again, if it is sized appropriately, there are many different ways that the form of the roof and the architecture of the house can be skinned to be appropriate. And as to the comment from the mayor of Garrett Park, frankly, I think that's a non sequitur. This is an individual master plan site, and the town or the mayor hasn't had any separate conversations with the staff about that. I know that's, you guys haven't even had the chance to ask us the question, but I'll just let you know. We haven't had any conversations with them about that. The town seemed to be supportive of the subdivision, as was the staff. Now, if part of the conversation about the subdivision was that it was then going to drive a certain type of architecture that was going to be inappropriate for the site, then maybe we wouldn't have recommended that this go forward as an administrative subdivision and that there should have been more discussion about that. But we've also worked with this applicant for a while to show, again, that there are a variety of styles that would meet their square footage desires. Each of these examples pretty much match the square footage that they've come forward with that could be compatible but narrower. So we have some more information too, if that would help frame the reply.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to add, this is Chair Galway. It's not a specific dimension. It's not a specific height. It's really, how does that look as compared to the adjacent historic structure? And I think what we're trying to say is that regardless of whether it's mid-century modern or any other style, it appears to be wider and larger. Because of that, it appears to be larger, and it's not, then as a result, is sort of not subservient to the historic house. They're too closely matched in terms of their size. And you did a very good job by rotating the roof and reducing the height. I'll give you that all day long. That really helped with the massing. And when I say massing, it's the front elevation massing. So yeah, I haven't, we try to stay out of your inside plan. We're just looking strictly at it as you were driving down or walking down the sidewalk or driving down the street and you look at the house. If it appears to be larger than the historic house, then we haven't done our job. If it's nice and tight and subservient to the historic house, then we feel that's appropriate. So I don't know if that helps, but we're not going to give you a specific number, but I would ask that you try to go back. And I'm sitting here thinking, if this came to me as a HOP, could I vote for it? And I'm on the fence at this point. And the other commissioners are going to have to make that same decision. And so maybe if you lose a foot, that might be enough. I don't know, but I think, you have to get with your architect. I would encourage you to do that and just brainstorm it a little bit and see what you can come up with. And then, come back with what you have and we'll go from there. All right? Yeah, Commissioner Kaplan.
Yeah, I also just want to reiterate what Commissioner Damiani was talking about. You can see the sample. Are you seeing what we're seeing? I guess not.
He can see, there's a screen in the front also.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great idea. But you can see the second one to the left. There's that's a sample of what he was talking about, like flipping the L, so the wide part is in the back. And with that, you wouldn't have to lose as much massing, because the massing is further back, and what you see is this narrow piece up front. You might also play with moving it back a little more substantially. I know, then you kind of lose your backyard because you got that accessory structure. I feel like I remember last time this was was there discussion, or maybe it was in the staff report about maybe I'm just imagining this, about new structures being subservient to the point where they appear to be like accessory structures. Am I not remembering that right?
So in the analysis section of the previous staff report, we talked about one of the guiding principles that we talk to applicants is looking at, particularly a house of the scale of the Truett Richter house, is to look at some of these things as a carriage house as sort of a jumping off point.
Yeah, so if you moved it back further, and I know you've got that other structure, so that might be problematic, but maybe it's just one structure, maybe it's a structure with a smaller structure connected by a breezeway or something like that, but just to move it back a little bit. And also, there have been comments design-wise about people pointing out the shed sections of roof maybe not fitting in. But I see that if you take that away, you've just got a traditional house. There's really no, from the street side, there's no mid-century modern elements to it. So maybe examine if that bumps some people, other ways of bringing that in, maybe like horizontality. Maybe, you've got your porch, your porch right now with the columns. Maybe instead there's like, maybe it's just like a wide eave acting as a porch. Elements like that. I was just looking up in my neighborhood, which is a few blocks from here, there was kind of this standard ranch house, and they totally redid it a few years ago and added all these elements, so it looks kind of mid-century modern, but it's still the same ranch house. I can give you that address. It's a few blocks from here if you want to look at that. But people are seeing this as kind of a conventional, traditional house, and all of a sudden you have these little, shed roofs, and maybe that's not, people are having problems with it. There are other ways to maybe incorporate elements of mid-century modern in, so it isn't just a traditional house. But I think, yeah, I think reversing the L, maybe pushing the whole house back a little bit might be ways to get the square footage you want, and have a house that's subservient. And I'll look for that address right now and give it to you in case you want to look at that.
Commissioner Kaplan, you can funnel that through me, and I can make sure that the applicant gets it.
I'll do that.
But yeah, just to address a couple of comments from Rebecca, that I guess we put the restrictions on ourselves somewhat, but also the site dictated a little bit of the coming back, because we felt preserving the 1950s historical cinder block shed kind of was something that my dad wanted to keep within the historic property. And so our filler when we did the original application was trying to get it as wide as we thought setbacks would allow. And so we showed an example of it. But then just managing that mass versus the perception of the historic house, which has a really deep front porch. And so that's why I always see that verticality is like, it really stretches it wide from the streetscape, but I don't know if the elevations give it as much justice. But the feedback has been taken.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Any other comments? All right, well, you'll work with staff and we'll look forward to seeing that again.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right. Yeah, moving along. I believe next on the agenda is the meeting notes. Has anyone read the January 7, 2026 meeting minutes?
This is Commissioner Dominiani. I read the meeting minutes.
Yes.
And therefore, I would move, Mr. Chair, to approve the January 7th, 2026 meeting minutes as written, because they look good to me based on my notes.
Do I have a second?
Yes, this is Commissioner Prather, I second.
All right.
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
All right. Are there any commission items? Any staff items?
Only one staff item, Mr. Chair. As we noted as Commissioner Doman brought up in the work session, this will be his last meeting with us. So on behalf of the staff and the department, we'd like to thank him for his 6 years of service on the HPC. No, thank you so much.
I'm going to speak for the commission and just say that we've really been a joy working with you, and all the knowledge, everything from science to wood, it's just pretty phenomenal, and we wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, if there are no other staff items or any other items, we are adjourned.